This video will be a survival guide to your first year, especially if you're doing engineering. I thought this video will be a bit useful for you. I'll be talking about your syllabus, your credit, your exam papers, and also the do's and don'ts based off my experience in first year. I would have been very happy if someone made these type of videos when I started my first year, but then no one did. So I thought, why not make something like this so that other people can also know. Let's start with Sem 1. The first subject I'm going to be talking about is math. You will be having this subject called calculus and linear algebra on your first semester. To be honest, I found engineering math to be easier than what I studied on 11th and 12th. I'm not sure if it's the teachers or the syllabus itself, but don't worry if you are a pure science student, you just have to work harder. You can get it because a lot of my friends they didn't study math in 11th and 12th, but then still they managed to score good scores at the end of the sem. So I think you don't need to worry. You just have to questions and hope they show up on the exams so that you can score well. We were required to choose between three languages: Japanese, French, or German. I picked Japanese because I thought it'll be fun to learn it, and because I've already studied French in my 11th and 12th, I didn't want to repeat the same thing on my college as well. So I thought, why not do Japanese because it's cool? And then Japanese experience, Japanese was very interesting, but at the same time you are required to focus on the subject. If an exam point of view, Japanese is a bit easier because it involves around vocabulary and the numbers, and they'll give you some letters and they'll ask you to write the meaning of it. So in that way, Japanese is very easy to attempt, but then you have to know about the words and their meanings to write it. It's a very easy paper if you study for it. So I picked Japanese, but I wish to consider what the majority of your class is choosing. So if you are interested in Japanese, but then not a lot of people uh, choose that in your class, like imagine if you are the only person in your class that chose Japanese, then it would be the class would be very awkward. There'll be a teacher standing there just for you, and then she or he they will take a lesson for you. I think and on the basis of language, I would say please choose what the majority of your classes choose. And you'll be having yoga as a non-credit subject. I'm not sure about this since we didn't have any sports or other sorts of activities. We had yoga, but I'm not sure because they have constructed a basketball court, so you might as well play there. I'm not sure. But then the physical activities is again a non-credit paper that you're required to take. Paper called Civil and Mechanical Workshop. 3 credit paper if I'm not wrong. So you'll be having these weekly sessions for like 3 to 4 hours. You will be required to do things from welding to carpentry, give you a basic hands-on training. I'm not sure if a lot of you guys know this, but you are required to do this on your first year of engineering. And then to be honest, it was scary, but at the same time, looking back, it was fun. But then it was a bit scary to weld and use that drilling machine and all that stuff. It was scary, but looking back at the memories now, it is fun. And then for the civil and mechanical workshop thing, you'll be required to write a record. So make sure that you know someone who can draw well, because you are required to draw a lot of the measurements of the metal object that you are drilling, or like if you are molding it. So you have to draw a lot. So I would suggest you guys to finish the work then and there. At last, it's gonna be really hard to finish all the work, especially if your staff is not strict. You're gonna lose internal marks and stuff. So please please complete your record works then and there. At the end, it's going to be very stressful to complete everything. And the next subject, that the EG record, most of the times that I filmed was on last minute. I was literally writing the record the whole night instead of writing it on weekly basis. So I suggest you guys not to do that. And the next and then you'll be having chemistry, which is for 5 credits. I had chemistry for 5 credits, 3 credits for the theory and 2 credits for the practicals, I assume. 5 credits, 3 for the theory and 2 for the practical sessions happen like once in a week. You're going to a lab and you'll be learning about titrations like you did on your 12th grade. It is the same. So make sure you get your lab code. Don't forget your lab code. Sometimes if the staff is not that lenient, they will not allow you to enter into the lab. They'll be like, go and write a letter to your HOD. So we don't want that. So the effort of learning, if you're not going to do that, then you will not be able to learn anything. Then if you get the experiment on your practical exam, you won't be able to do that because you were standing among the crowd. You didn't really do that. Most of the times after these citations, the other experiments will be you'll be divided in batches, and then you'll be doing team experiments rather than one by one. So make sure that you play your part rather than hiding it. That will be very useful if you are doing your model exams. Also make sure that there is a topper in your gang, or else you'll be having very hard time on doing calculations, because calculations can literally take hours and blow your brains off. So make sure that you're hanging out with a smarty who can help you do all the calculations. And then the next subject that we're going to talk about is philosophy of engineering. Philosophy of engineering is kind of a fun subject because it has only 2 credits. You're not required to study much or put a lot of efforts into the subject. So you will be asked to take seminars or lectures based on your roll numbers. You'll be forming teams and having debates about arts or engineering. I remember we had this debate on arts or science and engineering. It was fun. Engineering basically deals with the other aspect of engineering, like how engineering works and what are the canons of engineering and how it affects the society, and how engineering is how an engineer is portrayed in a society. You'll be learning about STEM, STEAM, and other topics like product life cycle, how a product works, and what are the pros and cons, what is a sustainable development, and all that. Not that hard. You just have to wake up and just skim through all the pages on the exam morning, and you can just write it, so you'll get marks. Then that's how easy the subject is. You just have to scheme, and all the stuff that is mentioned on the subject is very generalized, so you can kind of write it on your own words and get marks. And the next subject we're going to talk about is EEE, aka Electrics and Electronics Engineering. It is a 4 credit paper, and you don't really have any practicals to boost your credit. So it's a theory paper. So you have to read a lot. To be honest, I found the first unit of this subject very hard. It was very hard to cope. I remember studying only one topic, which was Thevenin's theorem, which fortunately appeared on my exams, so I kind of managed my paper with that. And the other units is kind of easier compared to the first unit. You'll be having things about resistors and capacitors and insulator. You'll be having about servo motors and stepper motors. I don't really remember a lot from the first sem because it feels like a fade. It's been 6 months since I wrote all that stuff, and then I forgot this. As first semester is concerned, EEE was kind of the hardest subject compared to every single thing. Even math was not that hard compared to EEE, but a lot more if I started studying earlier, because a lot of times I remember looking up the PDF at like the morning of the exams, or like at midnight I'll start studying the subjects. I think that is where I went wrong. Triple E is kind of easier if you start studying from the beginning and taking notes and stuff, but I didn't do that. We're all in this sort of mindset like, why are we studying this? We are supposed to like study biology. Why are we studying Triple E? So we had this kind of mindset. So we kind of like despised on Triple E. So we didn't really try. We didn't even try to like make an effort. I feel like if we have tried and like put some effort on Triple E wouldn't have like been much harder. I remember it was on like our first internal exam. We all were like very scared and we kind of flunked our exams. Most of us we did. And then the next subject that we're going to talk about is CDC. So you'll be having this subject called CDC. It doesn't have a credit, but if you guys remember, you'll be asked to pay some amount as CDC when you take your admission. So this CDC subject is basically for your career development. So what they'll do is they'll try to like break all the stage fear and stuff like that. So we were required to like make a presentation. We were required to like to sell a product. So they basically asked us to like make a product and then sell it in front of the class. So whoever gets a lot of votes and wins and gets the highest games to like break the ice between all of us. So we had something called the passing telephone. Yeah, that game where you like whisper to your friends ear and at last some different kind of word comes out. So we had that. We had a lot of like these mini activities that would help us break the ice. Out some worksheet and we were required to like fill all of it. So what our weaknesses were. So that paper is kind of like more personality development and career assessment kind of paper. Okay, we'll be moving on to sem 2 now. I think make sure that you hang out with the people who